All right. Well, thanks for joining me, Dr. Jackman, for this important conversation as we draw attention to Employee Wellness Month, which is throughout the month of June. It seems like it's always something new that we need to draw added attention to, and this is very important as millions of dollars are being spent by many large companies focusing on this subject. But before we begin, I would like for you to just briefly introduce yourself to the audience so they have a good sense of who you are.
Thank you, Kavontae. Thank you for this opportunity. So, I am Dr. Charmain Jackman. I am the founder and CEO of InnoPsych Inc. We are an organization that's really focused on creating inclusive mental health resources and experiences for everyone, particularly in the workplace. And so, we have recently shifted our focus to really leverage that. We've seen a lot of organizations really seek us out as a leader in this space, and so we're excited to lean into this even further.
And before I move forward, I would like to just kind of touch on that really briefly because your work is so important, especially right now. What are the long term goals of InnoPsych and how you guys intend to help improve the mental well being for millions of employees?
Thank you. We started out as a company that's really focused on providing access to mental health resources, and particularly therapy. And when we launched in January 2020, we could never have imagined kind of the demand that would come out. We could never imagine a pandemic first, and then all the mental health needs and the mental health crises that have emerged. And so, as we saw the need increase, we've been able to, I think, kind of pivot and respond to a need. During the COVID pandemic, we received lots of calls from organizations requesting support for their employees, their team members around just general well-being. And then after George Floyd's murder and some of the other visible racial incidents, we saw a need that was really focused on communities of color, communities that have been excluded from mental health resources. So I think we were uniquely positioned to be able to respond to that need, providing culturally responsive and culturally sensitive resources. And so I was like, well, let's lead into this even further. So really our goal with InnoPsych is, again, really, I think, I have this big goal of InnoPsych being a premier platform for inclusive mental health. So when you think about mental health and well-being, particularly through an inclusion lens, you're like, oh, InnoPsych, that's the place I need to go. And so I think we're starting to build this platform that provides therapy resources, that has wellness products. We do a lot of education. We do a lot of engaging around well-being. And again, thinking about it like outside the box. And so our goal is to really just respond to a need and to even be a leader in just being, an organization that's seen as a responsible inclusion mental health and well-being resource.
And as I begin to pivot just a little bit, you recently had a TED Talk where you shared your personal experiences with stress and how that connected to workplace well being. I know I can attest, having spent many years as a journalist in chaotic newsrooms, on chaotic
Mm,
scenes, I can tell you
mhm.
that, on the job, which by the way, we spend most of our time, it feels like, it can be very stressful. Just tell us about, some of the things that you brought up during your TED Talk when it comes to coping with stress and how it connects to your workplace well being.
Absolutely, Kavontae. Thank you for that question. And I would say that, I'm a mental health professional. And so you might think I have it all together. And I think in this journey of being a healer, and I realized that I was not prioritizing my mental health and well-being. I was telling my clients to do that. I was showing my clients how to do it. I was even practicing that in session with them. But for many years, I was not actually taking the time out for myself. And so I had a few health scares, which I share in the TED Talk, that, having one wake up call was not enough. And if you're like myself, many of us, we need more than one wake up call to actually make sustainable change. And so, as you asked me earlier about my goal really is for people to make these sustainable changes in their lives that focus well-being, that center themselves. And it doesn't mean like you don't have to be ambitious or you're not going to show up for work and do your best. But it's really how do you center yourself first and then add these pieces on? Because I think for a long time, work has just become the center, right? It is the way that we earn money, it's the way we provide for our families. And I think somehow it got a little twisted, right? That is the center. And I think we see in other cultures where like Europe and where work isn't the center, work is definitely important, but it's not the center. And my goal and through my TED Talk, but also through InnoSight, is to ensure that people understand why it's important to center themselves and then how to do it. And I think in the how, as I share in the TED Talk, there are easy things that you can do, just small bite-sized steps that you can take, that you can practice on a daily basis, that just helps you to then reorder how you think about yourself and your work.
And as I talk about this conversation of work, balancing things out, work life balance, I hear a lot about that as it relates to this sort of conversation. But you have an organizational screening tool that is a part of your overall package. Um,
Mhm.
will you please explain to everyone exactly what that is and how it supports leaders in creating an emotionally safe workspace?
Yeah, so I think that we hear a lot about workplace well-being, and I think the response is often, gym accounts, maybe some massages and spa days, and there's really not a focus on the emotional piece of that. I mean, it all ties together, right? And but our goal is to elevate that emotional well-being part of it. And so what our screening tool really does is really help leaders think about how do you look at your organization, look at your policies, your practices, and how are you thinking about your employee well-being? I think sometimes leaders may think that we don't have time for that. Just like people say, well, I don't have time for take care of myself, right? They don't say it in that way, but their actions say they don't prioritize that. And I think we see increasingly that workplaces are becoming stressful. We did a survey on our end and we found that over 60% of employees use the word stressful to describe their workplace. One of the things that we've been doing since COVID is we've been doing a number of workshops, and we do a word cloud at the start of every workshop where we ask people to share a word that describes how you've been feeling the last week or two. And consistently the words are overwhelmed, stressed, anxious, right? All of those anxiety provoking words. So we know that the workplace is a center for some of this stress, and it really impacts productivity, impacts how people show up for work. It impacts like presentism or absenteeism. And so the idea of thinking about how do you actually create a workplace that fosters emotional well-being, that provides psychological safety, actually, I hate to talk about it in these terms, but actually improves the bottom line. Our emotional well-being screening tool actually helps leaders assess what are they doing, what they can do better, and then we can help provide, some of those tools to help them implement a strategy that will work.
And this here is a new service that InnoPsych is now offering. Do you mind sharing how you have made the shift with this?
Yeah. And I would say it's not necessarily new. We've been doing it, but it's new to you, it's new to the public. We have been working on this work and actually piloting it with a number of organizations. And then we now feel ready to actually do that on a larger scale to help companies. And so I think the timing is right. We've been working on the website for probably about a year now because we wanted to get it right. We wanted to make sure it resonated with our clients. And I think it's right. I feel really proud of it. Of course, I still like there are a few tweaks, but it looks really good. And we shared it with some of our clients, and they're really excited about the work that we have to offer and how we're going to help move their organizations forward. I think the timing is also great because it is June, it is Employee Wellbeing Month. And so, and my TED Talk is like, it's all like, I think the universe just kind of conspired to like make things all come together really nicely. But we're really proud of this work. I think that what we offer for organizations is a comprehensive strategy, from assessment, kind of a diagnostic of where they're at. We then have tools that they can use. We create wellness experiences. We have workshops for leaders. We have a programming that's for affinity groups. And then we really try to think about an organization and what the varied needs that you have, and really put that together in really nice packages that I think will be really accessible and exciting for leaders to see.
And is there anything else that we should be keeping an eye on as we enter the second half of the year in this space?
Yeah, good reminder. The second half, right? I think that, again, our goal is really to help companies and help leaders kind of thrive, right? We know that our workforce is struggling, and I think many of us feel at a loss as to what to do. I think, for too long, we've relied on employees to do the work, to say, you do the self-care thing, but then they're coming back into spaces that are stressful and tough. And so, how do we make sure that the organization is also taking on a part of this healing? Like, how do we make sure workspaces allow people to show up and be their best? And I know it's possible, right? I know it's possible. And so, we really want to equip leaders and managers with the tools that will help them create these workspaces. And I think that leaders who join us, join this mission and maybe movement, they will see the results. And I think it also will help with recruitment and retention. And so it is a great strategy that's located in HR, that's located in benefits, that's located in just really, again, productivity and well-being for employees.
Well, thanks again, Dr. Jackman, for sharing with us this very important information that's important not just throughout the month of June, but throughout the entire year.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Okay.